Hooligan by Paddy Holohan is by Paddy Holohan is out now. It's brilliant, Paddy. You're very welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Pleasure to be here again.
Hooligan, obviously based on your nickname, the Hooligan. It's something that you refer to as an alter ego throughout the book. Can you explain that to us? Who is the Hooligan?
I think we all have it. I think we all have that little voice, and sometimes he's telling you that you can't do it, and sometimes he's telling you, fortunately for me, that you can, you know. So it's like when I hit rock bottom, it's like there's a spring installed, you know. So when I hit that rock bottom, like that moment where I'm on my own and I'm like kind of in a situation where it's getting sticky.
So it only comes out really in a low point?
Sometimes it hasn't. There's been times where I've went to fights and at the door, I know in the dressing room when it's there, you know, it's like it comes in and it's like, yes, I can feel it. And I think most fighters, when I start talking about it even more, I think most fighters will start going, do you know what, I have that too. And it is what happens. I think loads of people that perform and like even like people that sing and circus performers I've heard talking about it as well. You know, the idea of like, because you have to have the idea of stepping into that I don't say character, but kind of.
It's like when you're in full performance mode almost, and it has to come out, or you have to push it out, or how does it work for you?
It's just they're better at driving that ship, if you must. I think what is happening is that the chimp part of your brain, the chimp kind of behaviour that we have, and the human behaviour, it's like the two of them are directly looking at each other in the eye, and they're in total sync together, and they're getting ready to work together. And I think that is like kind of the effect of what's happening, rather than most times in life where one's pulling you one way and one's pulling you the other way. And
has that happened where the Hooligan has pulled you one way and you want to move another way?
As I said, when the Hooligan's there, I think the both of them are in the right place. You know what I mean? I think for fighting and for situations where it comes to survival, that side of me is what I rely on.
Yeah.
It's what I trust in, and I think a lot of people can do that. Climbers do it. All sorts of athletes do it, but they mightn't realise that the idea of this is how I used to feel it. And when I was in the dressing room and I was warming up, when I felt that coming in, I'm like, yes, it's here. I can feel it, you know.
When did you realise that? When did you realise this was an important part of your psyche?
I think a few pages into the book, when I was a kid, I realised that like I had that little part in me that when things got rough, that I kind of got angry, but I got like I'm gonna show these motherfuckers. You know what I mean? In a way, it was more like, rather than getting angry and getting more sad about something, it was like every time something happened, I kind of got a little bit more like I'm going to prove you wrong.
What sort of situations?
I don't know. I think it's like a ginger thing, you know? Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's a stubborn kind of part of you, you know? So a situation where you're going out to fight someone that probably everyone thinks that you're going to lose against, and you're like, wow, how dare you think about me like that, you know? And that kind of kicks in, and it's the stubborn part of you. It's the ginger in there, you know, that just will not give in. You know, I've an 11-month-old and he has it already. I can see it. The man goes stiff, he does when you try to lift him around. He's like, I'll go nowhere. So he has it already. So he's a young hooligan already.
When you think about the people in your life, there's so many amazing characters written about in Hooligan. Who's the most important person when you look back in your life in terms of forming the person that you are right now?
I know this sounds weird, but probably me. Probably me, because I'm the one who put the work in. I'm the one who got over the shit that was going on and got through it, you know? Now, the idea of people that would shape me, there's lots of people. There's lots of people, places. It could be a lot of stuff. It's like, I've described myself in the book as I'm the child that the village raised, if you must. So my Uncle Paul would be a huge part of that. He was the one who, when times did get like where I'd anxiety or I felt something bad was going to happen, he was the one that I confided in. My grandfather taught me so much, taught me about politics, taught me about how to treat people, ethics, street smarts, all of this stuff. My granddad was in the Defence Forces and was part of the battalion that was at Jabbaville at that time. So he wasn't actually caught down at Jabbaville, but he was on the ground in Congo at the same time.
Right.
So he had been in the Congo and had been away, and for the time, you know, when you go away, I think it's more common for people to go away. Back then, when someone had been away, especially to somewhere like the Congo, they brought this knowledge with them, you know. And then as a place, Jobstown, I definitely would not be the person I am if I was not raised in Jobstown. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah, so what is it about Jobstown that helped you become the person that you are? You mentioned, I guess you kind of alluded to it there a moment ago, areas of self-defence, being the kid who needed that sort of self-resilience. Like, I do wonder, did you gain that self-resilience because of where you come from, because of the environment that you grew up in, or was that resilience something that you've already had anyway and it just helped you to thrive better in all areas of your life from going into becoming a UFC fighter as well?
I think looking back at like kind of the line of people in my family, the Hooligan, which is my second name, which means proud man. So that's always been there. That's been the idea of like standing up for what you believe in. But the idea about being shaped by Jobstown and the self-defence part of it is that I think that we're allowed to become resilient in the place where I grew up, where a lot of kids these days are very sheltered. And if I grew up now, in these days and age, I'd have 10, 20 disorders already kind of like diagnosed on me because of behaviour or because of how I was, or when really sometimes I just needed a kick in the arse. And that's just being honest, and I'm telling you that as somebody that I remember acting up sometimes as a kid and knowing that. But now we kind of, now obviously there's so many different things going on and there's so many different more research and all into this stuff, but sometimes I think if you back up, if you reassure the child that it's okay to be like that, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's like, cop on, get yourself together, pick your shoes up, look after yourself, you know, because sometimes it can be like, oh no, he doesn't clean his room because he has some sort of behaviour disorder or something like that. I know, to me, I think sometimes it can be a kick in the arse, you know what I mean? And for me, my personal situation, I think that's where it was. But if I was growing up now, I wouldn't be allowed to be as resilient. Wouldn't be allowed to form that resilience. It takes time, you know. So in my martial arts facility, SPG Dublin 24 on the Green Hills Road, what I do is I literally have an area where people can learn resilience. So kids can be in situations where they have to kind of understand the hard work and ethic is what gets you the skill, you know, that you can't just download it. It doesn't work like that. This Insta world that we live in is not really benefiting kids in the idea of learning how to actually navigate life. Because when you go out onto that floor out there that all of the people are on, and there's all different people and personalities there, and you have to be ready for it. So you have to be learned to... Jobstown gave me the permission and gave me the space to be able to earn that resilience. That's
very interesting. So when people read this book, when I read this book, I'm thinking to myself, it's phenomenal that you've managed to make it in the UFC, to have that level of success, to look back in your life today saying, I've achieved all these things despite what's happened in your childhood, despite being kicked out of home for a little while, having to buy your school uniform one summer for yourself. But what you're actually saying is perhaps what you achieved is because of all of that.
Absolutely. You are given cards, and the idea is that my cards, I am who I am because of the cards that I was given. Where you get cards and it's a 2 and a 3, oh, this is... Or you can sit there and you can play them cards, and that's exactly what I did in my life. And that's everybody's life. The thing we want to get through from the book is if, like, literally, if I can make it, anybody can make it. Now, I say that in the fact of, like, where some people go, oh, they sound... But they have all of the resources. They have, say, maybe they have the home, so they have two parents together. They have the facilities, they have the area, which is really nice. There's probably no trouble in it and all this kind of stuff, and they have a house and all, but they don't have the resilience. And when it comes into a situation where, say they go into work and somebody's like they rob their toast or something like that, and it's like, you're bullying me, you robbed my toast. You know, where sometimes... It's hard to have the crack these days a little bit more, you know? Like, I'm very careful where I just have the crack now. Because you have the crack and it's like, how dare you say that, you know? Yeah. So it's a little bit lighter in a way, like, you can't be like that. You can't be like, I say, when I was growing up, someone would say something to you, but they wouldn't mean probably what the word would mean, you know what I mean? It's just in the vocabulary in a way, and these days it can shape your whole personality, you know? Like, say, even in politics, if you must, like, it's like you curse on something, it's like, he cursed on something, that's it, get him out of office. It's like, but it's all right to create homelessness, and it's all right to squander money and stuff like that, where...
bigger picture is being lost a small bit.
Absolutely. Well, like, what are we looking for? Perfect politicians? It's impossible. If we're looking for perfect people, we're never going to find them. And people that are hiding it and saying, like, I am perfect. I'd watch them.
Did you see the clip last week with Barack Obama and the call-out culture line he gave? I'm not sure, does that kind of fall in line with the point you're making there about politics in terms of always looking for a scapegoat rather than looking at what the actual foundation of the problem might be?
I was watching a thing called from Boris Johnson this morning, and there's a girl actually like creasing him because before the Brexit thing, he's like, I'd rather die in a ditch before I ask for an extension on the Brexit. And it's like, can I have an extension, please? And this is the way these guys are. And literally, then the girl says, he says to him, Theresa May said something to him about like his nonsense behaviour. And he said like, no, that wasn't nonsense, my worst nonsense behaviour. He said, but the next time I meet you, I will tell you my worst nonsense behaviour. He says, well, as long as it doesn't get in the way of my politics, I will tell you my nonsense behaviour. But that makes no sense to me, because it's like, right, so there is things in there you're telling us that would change your opinion of you, and it's like, yeah, I'll tell you the thing so your opinion way is still good and you can still vote for me, but I'm actually a slimeball. Yeah. That's what you're dealing with. Say, if you look around now, do you see all the election posters up? Have you seen any of these? Like the posters regarding election that aren't really election posters? Absolutely. This is a meeting poster. It's like, they're really election posters. So the by-election is coming, and it's like we all said, right, we're going to start the race. Let's all start on this line. And they're like, yeah, I agree. And they're like starting above the line already. They're basically cheating in front of your face, and we have to trust these people to go in now. They're just trying to be like, yeah, well, I'll get my poster up here and I'll be ahead of you. Your work should be paying for it. Your work should be the thing that's talking for that, you know, the stuff that you're doing on the ground and the people that you're in the community. Like, if you should be able to get elected without putting up posters in that way, you know what I mean? So, is politics closer to what you thought it would be before you stepped in, before you became a Sinn Féin councillor, or is it further away than you possibly imagined? It's kind of what I thought times 10, you know what I mean? It is exactly, like, there's a lot of NIMBYism and there's a lot of, like, not in my backyard kind of stuff, you know? So, you want to build houses, you want to build social housing in a residential area or in a private housing, good luck to you, mate. Do you know what I mean? But if you want to build social housing in Jobstown, sound, don't worry. Everyone will take all of them boxes. Nobody wants social housing in residential areas. Nobody wants to mix housing. That's what we need to be doing. Shouldn't be doing. Like what just happened with Devoney Gardens just there is ridiculous. Devoney Gardens is the Irish people's land, and we're literally selling it off now to developers. The situation got voted off yesterday. There's people literally standing there inside the council screaming, do not sell the land. There's people running in, getting taken out by guard, and they're like, don't mind that, nothing to see here. Clean it to the side, deadly. There you go, developer. That's what's happening. That's really what's happening. Affordable housing. Do you know how much affordable housing is? As in, to give you a figure? Give me a figure. What would you call it for? What could you afford as affordable housing? Well, I can tell you that affordable housing is probably not within the remit. The remit of, like, speaking of somebody who's moved to Dublin rather than somebody who's been brought up in Dublin is something that's kind of like a terrifying prospect. Yeah. Affordable housing. And then you get into the idea of what affordable housing is to actually own, and then that's just, it's not even a terrifying idea, it's just an impossible idea. So to put a figure on that, I'm not even quite sure, to be quite honest with you. Affordable housing in Ireland now is €309,000. But that's the definition in inverted commas of what yeah. You couldn't get a loan of 309,000. Like, if I went in and what I'm earning, what you're earning, we couple up, let's get married, we wouldn't get a mortgage. You'd need a kind of a three-way marriage or a four-way marriage. You need to have you can only be exactly what you're saying there, yeah. And you're dead right. But it's not affordable housing. Affordable housing is something that you can afford to buy a house and then you can live as well. Yeah. That's affordable. There's a lot in your career I want to chat about, in your fighting career I want to chat about. Just before that, like, what would you change? What's the, like, when you decide, yes, this is one of the vocations I want to pursue in terms of politics, was there a specific thing that you were like, after a couple of years or a couple of decades or however long it could take me, I want to change this thing? Do you have that one thing that you want to change? In politics or in my fighting career? In your politics. All right, I thought you were fighting career. We'll get to that in a moment. All right, I would like it just to make sense. Okay. I think anyone would like it to make sense. I think when someone's getting out of bed at 9 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning and they're going to work and they're working 5 days a week and they're just working their ass off, and at the end of it they just have nothing to say. They're just giving it all out. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to them people. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense that the rents are the highest in Europe. it doesn't make sense that this country is the fastest growing economy in Europe, but it's the least development. It's not developing. Everything's getting worse. Like, our homelessness has gone down, or gone up every single month. If this was your job, right, on this show here, and your numbers were going down every single month, what happened?
Yeah, there'd be a change of personnel,
you get
probably.
sacked. That's just the way it is. I said a good thing at the book launch. Picture this as like a toilet in a garage, right? The whole country, just to make it easier to understand. And we go in, and there's just shit everywhere. The place is in bits, all right? And what do? You check the list on the wall of who was supposed to clean the toilet last. And if you check that, and it's the Irish country, it's Ireland. It says Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael. So we know what's going on. We have landed here for a reason, because of bad management. We've been managed bad for a long, long time. These guys know what's going on. They're not stupid. Like, they're trying to make everybody happy, but make as much profit as possible. And that's not the way a country should be ran. A country is not a business like that, you know, and they treat it like a business. They'll talk about the economic growth, but they won't talk about the economic development. And they won't show you the graph for that either. And I'm sure if you see it, you'll know what's really going down. You know, the economic growth one goes like this for Ireland. And it's like, oh, it's all good, don't worry. But the economic development one is going like this. And that's the only one that matters, because the one that matters to me, and it matters to you, and it matters to everybody else. That's the schools, that's the workers, that's the hospitals. Like the nurses say. When the nurses went on strike, that was a massive thing. Guess what they got out of that?
Tiny pay increase.
But they didn't ask for a pay increase, they asked for a pay restoration.
Yeah.
So even the money that was taken away from them when they ruined the country, go back. We could go all day here.
We could. It's probably a conversation that we could have another day as well. There's so much in the book I want to get to as well, Paddy.
Let's do it.
And actually, one of the things, and it's one of the stark lines I think at the end of one of the chapters, is not sure if I can keep them in any longer. That's in revealing darker moments in your life and in relation to your childhood. What are these moments? What are these things that you struggled to talk about in the past and you're now able to articulate now?
Well, I'm a man now, so I think when I turned 18, I thought I was a man. I'm a man now, where the idea is I understand that I can forgive people now, do you know what I mean? I can understand the idea of situations where when you're growing up, it's like someone does something and you're like, you fucker, you know, you did that on me. And then after a little while, you can kind of look at their situation and try to read it from their side and make some reconciliation with it, you know. And I think I can do that now, and that's why, to be able to get it off my chest. And even if someone's like, I can't believe you said that, or I can't believe this, it's like...
What are the things that you've been carrying with you?
Well, there's a lot of explanations in the book that people would ask me questions about. There's, say, regarding growing up, people would ask me questions about my childhood, and you just wouldn't have it sorted out in your head yet. With the book, I was able to timeline that stuff, you know, like, and I never really got into it. Everyone knew that I had had a past as a kid, people that I grew up with. I actually got a message off a guy that I grew up with this morning. He's like, holy shit, Paddy, I can't remember that it was that bad.
Right.
He says, but now reading it, he's like, it makes a lot of sense now. You know what I mean? And it does, because he said, I must have blocked it out.
Like, that's a fascinating thing to say, because I often wonder as well the timeline of perhaps your appreciation of certain things in your life. I mean, like, your relationship with your mother is something fascinating that occurs throughout the book, and it's obviously something that gets better over time. But at the very start, you illustrate her own background, somebody who's in a Magdalene laundry. Mm-hmm. Like, at what age do you realise that was not only a part of her life, but a part of somebody's life that can destroy somebody mentally for their entire life, and ultimately their child or their grandkids can suffer as a result?
This brings me back to politics, right? Because that situation was a government situation as well, and probably the same one that's creating the one in our country now at the same time. Now, my mother would be a byproduct of that, and many others across the country would be. Now, people would look at my mother, say, moving into a council house, be like, oh, yeah, council house, you got a free house and all of this stuff. And, like, my mother, I look at it longer than that, okay? So people would look at now social housing and this, and they would kind of look down on it a little bit. I'm looking at this in the longer terms. In 20 years, 30 years, what are them great people going to produce? My mother produced me from a council house in a single-parent household. So there would have been a time where she would have been shamed as a single mother, an unmarried mother in this country. They were shamed and pushed into corners. And that's just the reality of life. People don't get on, and things happen. But now we're in a situation where you're going to be asking someone else this question in a few years about the hotels. When them kids are grown up and now they're raising children, and they're telling their own children the story of, like, I grew up in a hotel for the first 3 years of my life because there was no houses in the country, and there was no, you know, and now Paddy Holohan is the president of the country, the houses are here and my grand. I'm only messing, but that's the truth, you know. We're going into a process now where it's going to happen again. We're going to happen again. So I am the byproduct of my mother. I understand my mother's life now. I understand that she's more powerful than more people than I know, to be able to overcome the stuff that she overcame, and to be able to raise me, and not only that, but she does things where I don't know. Like, my mum would be, I think she'd be ignoring me one time, but she wouldn't. She just would not be having that argument at the time, and I'd be like, say something. She'd be like, it's grand, just do your best. Just do your best. And that's the advice I give to people now. Like, my mum would say to me when I was going to fight, she'd be like, say something to me, like, hug me, can you love me or something?
What was her view of fighting and your career when it started to take off? Because you said that the first moment she said she was proud of you was when you got elected. Yeah. So what was her view of the fighting career? The first time, my mum would have told me she was proud of me, but the first time I ever felt she was proud of me is when I was elected. Right. You know, because to me, this is where I kind of learned this view as well. My mother would look at people, my mother growing up would look at doctors and look at like TDs and counsellors and stuff like this as like good people, the people that had made it, the people that you aspire to be in a way. So when I was going to be a fighter, I don't think she was too excited about the idea of that. And then the idea of, like, your son is a fighter. Yeah. That's not, when you look at it like that as well, it's like, right, it's not probably the aspiration you have for your child when he's growing up. She didn't understand it. But then when I became elected, in her mind, I had came into that situation, I think, where she was like, all right, now he has a real job if you must. Like, there's also the practical element of it all. She was the person who kept your life machine on when you had life-saving surgery, when a doctor told her to turn it off. Mm-hmm. This is somebody who knew exactly, acutely, what you were going through in terms of the very rare blood condition that ultimately that did end your fighting career, that would have ended it at any point. So I presume that would have made it even harder for her to watch you get into a cage at any point, knowing what was going on biologically for you.
My mother came and watched, I think it was one fight, my first ever fight in Shore, and then she never came again. She never came again. She just, as I said, I just, even the idea of having her there there's an anxiety in that as well, you know, like your mother's there, whether you're a man or whether you're a man or a child, it's just the way it is. And she supported me in my career, but I don't think she ever seen it. I don't think she understood it. That's being out straight. My mother's a very simple woman, and she didn't understand it, I don't think, you know, but she's stronger than most people that I know because she's clever in a way that, like, doesn't come across as clever. You know, it comes across as, like, it just doesn't want to get involved, that's quiet, and sometimes she's just being quiet is a good answer, you know. Mm.
Would you say you were an emotional fighter?
An emotional fighter?
Yeah.
Define emotion. What do you mean?
Angry, wanting to not only defeat an opponent, defeat a man at the opposite end of the cage.
No, I was fighting myself most of the time, you know what I mean? It was me against me in there, when I'm looking in that mirror and stuff like that. Now, the opponent obviously matters and stuff, but the emotion part with me wasn't it. It was pure bliss for me. It was just, it was like Elysium, the thing that Maximus talks about. It was a beautiful thing to me, you know, walking out, the idea of feeling the energy of the crowd. I couldn't think of, like, anger or I would say nerves is not as an emotion. Nerves is like a reaction to a situation that you're putting your body into, and to go through that. And anyway, that's the decision. If I put you in the tree arena, you'll feel the exact same way I feel.
I was just about to say, that's my lack of understanding, referring to emotion as anger automatically, which is a very, very different thing. That's the first thing that comes to my mind when you ask me what emotion is, but actually it's very different. Like you say in the book that being an emotional fighter is a very dangerous thing, but separately to that, there is this almost spiritual feeling, I think, from reading your book, that you get that isn't the same as being fired up emotionally, overly emotionally.
No, I'm into it. Like, I'm into it in a spiritual way, you know what I mean? When someone's hitting me and I'm like, I'm taking, I like it. You know what I mean? I like it. Now, I'm nervous going there, but you would be as well. If we put you and me in the same situations, the difference between me and you would be how we react to them feelings, how we succumb to them feelings. If you're, no, I can't do it because of this, and this, then you won't do it. Where to me, I was the opposite. I was like, no, I can do it because of this, and this.
And do you think that your emotional reaction is similar to other fighters that you would have grown up with, trained with? Do you think you were like a sponge and you all shared that same sort of mentality?
The one thing I've known about that, and which has helped me in my coaching career, I've been coaching for probably over 10 years now, is that, listen, I'm still only learning about this. Everyone's different. We're all different. If you do one job that fixes all, won't work. That's why I think having too many fighters, too many people to look after can hinder that as well, because you've got to deal with people on a one-to-one basis on the emotional side of it. And the emotional side of it is the biggest part of it. Skills is a huge part. But listen, you'll get fighters that don't have skills, but have wills, and they will go in and beat a fighter with skills. Sometimes you'll get fighters that's the best skill going, he's talented, but then he just can't get it from the dressing room to the fight. And that's it. Gustav used to say, the man that gets beat, it's not the man that gets beat by the better opponent that matters, it's the opponent, or the man that beats himself. And that's it. That happens in the dressing room.
Yeah.
People beat themselves, even good fighters.
But like that's what I was just about to ask, actually, about that dressing room environment, about that training environment, really. Like, somebody you speak about at length in the book is John Kavanagh, and how he's such a brilliant technical coach, and being prepared physically. If you had John Kavanagh in your corner, you are sorted. But then perhaps if things start to go wrong, when you do get that first, when you're always gone, basically, when you start to get that defeat, that perhaps the emotional backup that he would give as a human being was potentially lacking. Is that fair to say?
If you win or if you lose, it was only after a little while that I started to realise that didn't really affect John how it affected me. I'm with that at home, you know. Now, and I understand that as a coach now as well. But the idea of that is you have to understand it. So to me, if we had lost, John was not feeling what I was feeling. You know, like when my fighters lose, like, it gets me. You know what I mean? And if you look at it, you'll see on my face there and then. I don't know if John's just, if he's better at it or if he's not as good at it. One or the other, you know what I mean? But technically, really, really good. But emotionally dealing with you on an emotional level, being able to deal with problems with you, being able to talk to you face to face and kind of overcome stuff. No.
It seemed that as your career went further down the path, there was a situation, like there's obviously this very famous fight where he's on the phone in the build-up to it. I know he's trying to get somebody in and he has other things to worry about, but he's not focused on you in the build-up. Is that just the case where over the years perhaps he had more trust in you and that you didn't realise what you needed pre-fight, or why do you think that happened?
No, I think John knew exactly what I needed pre-fight. I think he knew that. He's good at the idea of figuring out different personalities, if you must, and what kind of engages them in that way. But the fact of that is that if you read John's book, it's a different account of how that went, and that I didn't like that. That kind of annoyed me a little bit, you know what I mean? If you look at John's book, the account of that fight and how the build-up is that... Louis Smolka. Yeah, John didn't take really much responsibility for that. I was taking the responsibility for it, and I kind of wrote what actually happened in that situation.
Said he got overwhelmed?
Said I got overwhelmed, and that there was a seed of doubt, and that there was... listen, it was the main event fight. It all came on me. There was no mention of that. And it just came, and that John wasn't the one coming to me saying that I was main event. Twitter had said it to me.
What happens after your fighting career, your relationship with John, in terms of going into business with him?
Well, I don't have any relationship with John now. I have zero relationship with him, unfortunately. It was like kind of, I had John's back at one time, and John didn't have mine when it came to it. And that was kind of the situation.
How do you mean by that, just for people who haven't read the book?
Well, we announced the gym. We announced a gym together, that we were going to open a gym in Tallaght, and then time it went on. We were looking for a building for a long time. John ended up getting contacted by an investor, and an investor ended up jumping onto the project, and I was kind of hazy about it, you know, and then it turned out in a situation that I was being changed from Paddy Holohan, the UFC fighter, to a coach. So I was kind of getting ground down a little bit to be a coach, and I wasn't standing in a building in Tallaght taking orders off some guy that literally knew nothing about mixed martial arts. I had said it to John many times. This is mentally killing me, you know. I had just lost my career, and now I was sitting here being told what to do by some guy that was a fan of the sport, basically. John didn't have my back on that, so I came to a situation where he'd promised I'd do this, we'll do that, and then nothing happened. And for my own sake and the sake of my family, sake of my kids, sake of the future of my kids and my livelihood, I had to leave. And then I ended up having to go back to a community centre. So I went back to the community centre. I had 200 people left the gym with me. I was like, right, I've got 200 people now looking to train.
Yeah.
So we went to a community centre. I went and rented a building. I taught in that community centre for the weeks. And through all of this, John didn't ring me. John didn't drop up to the community centre to see was I okay or anything like that. John was doing his own thing, and I know John's a busy man, but I gave him 10 years, so I think I deserve that, you know.
When was the last time you guys spoke?
Can't remember. I was actually over the situation that occurred, but it was by text and by phone. There's no relationship there, and I think he said on Paddy Holohan, and he said, sure. With this relationship, it's just the way it is. Sometimes, listen, and I'm figuring this out even more as well. Sometimes you can go 10 years with somebody, and it does that. But you either get swallowed up by that, or you just keep going the way you're going, and that's what I'm doing, and that's what I have been doing since I retired.
For anyone who hasn't read the book, there is tons more detail on that in Hooligan and everything else we spoke about. It's brilliant, Paddy. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you.